beautiful ancestors won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and put a man on the face of the moon. And I think you saw the other day, we're reopening NASA. We're going to be going to space. Space Force. Space Force. So we have the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard. But we have the Air Force. Now we're going to have the Space Force because it's a whole... We need it. We need it. As long as we are proud of who we are and what we are fighting for, we will never, ever fail. There is no place like our place. There is no place.
Finally tonight, while most questions at Tuesday's White House press briefing focused on the Republican tax plan, things took an otherworldly turn at one point.
Several media reports disclosed the existence of a secret Pentagon program that was researching UFOs, funding ran out for that in 2012. Does the president believe in the existence of UFOs, and would he be interested in restoring funding for that program?
Somehow that question hasn't come up in our back and forth over the last couple days, but I will check into that and be happy to circle back.
USA, 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 USA. I have been very, very direct with Secretary Stoltenberg and members of the alliance in saying that NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations. But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they are supposed to be paying for their defense. This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States. And many of these nations owe massive amounts of money from past years and not paying in those past years. Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined. If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves. 17,000 jobs. Thank you. Oh, they don't have water. That's okay. What? Oh, it's okay. Oh. Japanese manufacturers, Toyota and Mazda.
Lots of books claim to be tell-alls, but they don't follow through. Stormy Daniels' new book about her life? It's not that book. Wow, she tells all. From the details of her career in porn to, yes, being in bed with the future president of the United States and even being able to pick certain parts of him out of a lineup and then being threatened to shut up about it. All these accounts are in there. CNN has an early copy. CNN's Sarah Seidner is live for us in Los Angeles. Obviously, President Trump denies ever having a relationship with that woman, Miss Daniels. But Sarah, some of the details here are very not safe for work, but relevant to the legal troubles the president might find himself in.
Yeah, and clearly her attorney said the reason why she did this, the reason why she detailed so excruciatingly thoroughly is because she said she was tired of being called a liar by the Trump administration. But she also tells a lot. Most of the book is about her life, from her early childhood all the way through becoming a director in porn and also doing some other kinds of movies that we have all seen her in. But she certainly is very, very clear that this is full disclosure. In her tell-all book, porn star Stormy Daniels gives readers a look at her life from a deeply disturbing childhood of neglect and rape to a public battle with the President of the United States. She writes that her first sighting of Donald Trump in 2006 in his hotel suite in Lake Tahoe was shocking. Trump came swooping in wearing black silk pajamas and slippers, she writes. "What are you doing?" I yelled. "Go put some effing clothes on." She writes that he changed, and they both joked about his hair. I pointed to his hair. "What's going on with this?" "I know," he said with a smile. "It's ridiculous." She says the two talked about family. "What would your wife think of you being here with me?" Stormy writes. "Oh, don't worry about that," he said. "It's not a big deal. And anyway, we have separate bedrooms." She writes Trump then brought out a picture of Melania holding their son Barron, who was just 4 months old at the time. And when Daniels came out of the bathroom, she claims Trump was lying on the bed in his underwear. They had sex. She then describes his genitalia in great detail. "His penis is distinctive in a certain way," she writes. Proof, her attorney Michael Avenatti says. She is tired of being called a liar by Trump's people.
And very shortly, the president could make his first public comment since news that his lawyer got a restraining order against Stormy Daniels, and his press secretary essentially admitted there was some sort of agreement between President Trump and the adult film actress. We learned just moments ago that the president is very unhappy with how that press secretary, Sarah Sanders, handled this. So let's start with that. And Abby Phillip live at the White House this morning. Abby, what have you learned?
Well, good morning, John. A lot going on here, as you just mentioned, but this saga with Stormy Daniels seems to be the one thing that the White House can't dodge. President Trump, according to a source close to the White House who spoke to CNN's Jim Acosta, is not very happy with how Sarah Sanders handled this whole situation during the press briefing room session yesterday. And it's partly because of what she did say this time around that may have opened the floodgates for some new inquiries about the president's involvement in this whole thing. According to this source, Sarah Sanders' comments were essentially putting the Stormy Daniels storyline on steroids yesterday. What she talked about was this issue of arbitration. She acknowledged for the first time, we believe, based on what the White House has said that the president is a party to some kind of legal agreement involving Stormy Daniels, and that the president is directly involved in this whole thing. Listen to what she had to say yesterday.
The president has addressed these directly and made very well clear that none of these allegations are true. This case has already been won in arbitration.
You said that there's arbitration that's already been won? By whom and when?
By the president's personal attorneys, and for details on that, I would refer you to them.
But you're aware of them, so what more can you share with us?
I can share that that the arbitration was won in the president's favor.
In the president's favor is really the big part of that whole exchange. It's critically important because for a long time the White House had said that the president denies this, that he had no knowledge of anything his lawyer was doing on his behalf when it comes to Stormy Daniels. Now it seems very much that there was a case that he is at the center of, that the White House now acknowledges exists, John.
Yeah, that was a very interesting, if not a bit strange, acknowledgement, Abby. We're going to talk much more on that in a second.
This story, the potential of many more like it, raises obvious questions about how it's affecting the First Lady, seen here yesterday with the president at an event for Ireland's Prime Minister. She's not spoken about Stormy Daniels, obviously, and has largely stayed out of the public eye ever since the news broke. In any case, this is not her first time having to decide what to say or what not to say after her husband makes news. Randy Kay now takes a look.
So he did not have a condom. He knows he has an unusual penis. It has a huge mushroom head, like a toadstool. But you also say it's smaller than average. All right. So, which of these mushrooms, orange mushrooms, would most represent the commander-in-chief of the United States military?
Can you hold it up so it's coming at me at the correct angle?
Yes. They might fall off, though. So. Oh! Is this the one?
It's a nubbin!
Do you think the president is watching right now? I like to imagine him.
I don't want to imagine him.
Stormy Daniels may be speaking out, but Melania Trump certainly is not. Despite the porn star's claims that she had an affair with Donald Trump, the First Lady has remained silent on the matter. In fact, soon after the story broke, Melania Trump canceled a previously announced trip to Davos, Switzerland with her husband, quietly visited the Holocaust Museum in D.C., and made an unexplained solo trip to Mar-a-Lago. The White House telling CNN the First Lady is entitled to some privacy. Instead of the vulgar headlines and talk of hush money, Mrs. Trump has remained focused on her duties as First Lady, and at least at times, keeping her distance from the president. The stormy cloud hung over the president's State of the Union address, with the First Lady arriving separately from the president, a break with long-standing tradition. That was January 30th, and the first couple hadn't been seen together at an official public event since New Year's Eve. Weeks later, in mid-February, news of another alleged affair from 2006 with a former Playboy playmate. Trump denied it, but after the story broke, as the couple departed for Mar-a-Lago, Melania Trump chose to skip the ride on Marine One, instead taking her own motorcade to Andrews Air Force Base, where she met her husband on Air Force One. That same month, Mrs. Trump did appear briefly with the president after the shooting in Parkland, Florida. And she also went along on a day trip to Ohio, though she skipped his speech, instead taking a motorcade to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. The couple met up again on board the flight home. Reports that Stormy Daniels received a payoff reportedly blindsided the First Lady, which may explain her low profile. Still, this was hardly the first time she's had to deal with her husband being accused of cheating or inappropriate behavior.
I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss.
Mrs. Trump was quick to dismiss that whole saga as mere boy talk.
He was lead on, like egg on, from the host to say dirty and bad stuff.
She defended her husband again when multiple women came forward accusing him of kissing and groping them. Mr. Trump has denied it all.
I believe my husband. I believe my husband. Did they ever check the background of these women? They don't have any facts.
Facts may be just what Melania Trump is waiting for before she breaks her silence again. Randy Kaye, CNN, New York.
I just want to thank all of the incredible men and women who have done such a great job in helping with Florence. This is a tough hurricane, one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Rarely have we had an experience like it, and it certainly is not good. But the people of North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, all of the areas affected, you've been incredible. There's been a loss of life, and may God be with them and their families. That's a tough one. It's tough to understand, but this has been a really difficult period of time for a lot of people.
You didn't let me ask my question.
You've been asking a question for 10 minutes.
You interrupted
Please
my
sit down.
question.
Okay, question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. She's shocked that I picked her.
No.
She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Americans deliver a stinging rebuke to President Trump, handing the House of Representatives to Democrats, even as they strengthen Republicans' grip on the Senate. A divided Congress for a divided nation.
I'm Andy Sullivan in Washington, which is about to become a much less friendly place for Donald Trump. Starting in January, Democrats will be in control of half of Capitol Hill. Expect them to launch a wave of investigations and generally make life miserable for his administration. But meanwhile, over in the Senate, Republicans will still be confirming his conservative judges. It's a polarized outcome that reflects the polarizing nature of this president. He's toxic in half the country, more popular than ever in the other half.
Democratic House Leader Nancy Pelosi delivering a warning to the president.
Today is more than about Democrats and Republicans. It's about restoring the Constitution's checks and balances to the Trump administration.
Pelosi's Democrats campaigned on bread and butter issues like health care, but they harnessed a wave of anti-Trump activism that turned the nation's streets pink the day after he took office. A record number of women likely headed to Capitol Hill, including the first Somali-American lawmaker, Ilhan Omar, and the first Palestinian-American, Rashida Tlaib.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms. That
here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in
Not
this
at all.
election
No, not
to
at
try
all.
to keep them?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual. You know, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President. If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Excuse me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian
investigation
investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
butt. Well, I'm not
like
a big
the rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either. So
I understand.
To be honest,
so let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said
you aren't the best,
Mr. President. You repeatedly over the course of
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days of the campaign, sir, at the end of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said Democrats would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why are you pitting Americans? Why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him?
No,
Peter,
I'm just asking the question.
Let me just tell you, very simple, because they're very weak on crime. Because they have often suggested, members and people within the Democrat Party at a high level have suggested getting rid of ICE, getting rid of law enforcement. That's not going to happen, okay? We want to be strong on the borders. We want to be strong on law enforcement, and I want to cherish ICE because ICE does a fantastic job. What they do for us is it's so unrecognized how good a job they do. So we want to take care of them, and we want to hold them very close because they do a good job.
But the question, to be clear, though, the question,
Thank you very much.
Why are you
sit down?
Peter. But you didn't answer my question. Just very simply, the question is, why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view citizens of this country?
I'll tell you what. We won a lot of elections last night. We did very well last night.
But in many ways,
I think it's going to have a very positive impact. I watched NBC this morning. They didn't report it exactly correctly, but that's, that's the fact with NBC. Nothing I can do about that. But I want this country to have protection. We want security in our country. I want security, Peter. I mean, you maybe don't think it's so important. And I think when you don't have it, you are indeed unleashing crime. I feel that. I call them the angry Democrats. They are angry people. And it's a very unfair thing for this country. It's a very, very, forget about unfair to me, it's very bad for our country.
Okay. So, Mr. President, if it's
Go ahead.
Mr. President,
just
wait just a moment. If it's unfair to the country and it's costing millions of dollars, why don't you just
give him the mic,
it?
please? I've answered the question. Okay. Go ahead, take the. Well, I'll give you voters. I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I'll give you voter suppression. Take a look at the CNN polls, how inaccurate they were. That's called voter suppression. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Would you please sit down? Excuse me. Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that the House of Representatives
Very hostile.
has fled,
It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You ask me about. No, you rudely interrupted him. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
President Trump took it right down to the wire, calling trusted aides and friends even this morning. But tonight, no hesitation as he presented his Supreme Court nominee.
What matters is not a judge's political views, but whether they can set aside those views to do what the law and the Constitution require. I am pleased to say that I have found, without doubt, such a person. Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court.
Then, from the judge, an introduction to the American people.
My judicial philosophy is straightforward. A judge must be independent and must interpret the law, not make the law. A judge must interpret statutes as written, and a judge must interpret the Constitution as written, informed by history and tradition and precedent.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions. And I'm honored by it. Yes, Jim Acosta.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if you could comment on this disconnect that we seem to have in this country, where you are presenting information about what's happening at the border, calling it an invasion, talking about women with duct tape over their mouths and so on. And yet there's a lot of reporting out there. There's a lot of crime data out there. There's a lot of Department of Homeland Security data out there that shows border crossings at a near record low. That shows undocumented immigrants committing crime at lower levels. That shows undocumented criminals or undocumented immigrants committing crime at lower levels than native-born Americans. What do you say to
you don't really believe that stat? Do you really believe that stat? Take a look at our federal prisons.
I believe in facts and statistics and data.
Any more quick? Let's go.
But let me just ask you this. What do you say to your critics who say that you are creating a national emergency, that you're concocting a national emergency here in order to get your wall because you couldn't get it through other ways?
What do you think? Do you think I'm creating something? Ask these incredible women who lost their daughters and their sons. This is real. Okay? Because your question is a very political question, because you have an agenda. You're CNN. You're fake news. You have an agenda. The numbers that you gave are wrong. Take a look at our federal prison population. See how many of them, percentage-wise, are illegal. One thing that I do have to say is tremendous amounts of wall have already been built, and a lot of wall when you include the renovation of existing fences and walls. We've renovated a tremendous amount, and we've done a lot of work. In San Diego, we're building new walls right now, and we've right next to San Diego, we've completed a major section of wall, and it's really worked well. So a lot of wall has been built. We don't talk about that, but we might as well start because it's being built right now, big sections of wall. Frankly, some wall has been reinforced by our military. Our military has done a fantastic job. So the wall will get built, but we may not have an agreement today. We probably won't. But we have an agreement on other things that are really good. Nancy, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to meet with you so that we can work together in a bipartisan way to meet the needs of the American people. I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have a Trump shutdown. You have the White House, the Trump shutdown. You have the White House. You have the Senate.
We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important. Chuck, did you want to say something?
Yeah, here's what I want to say. We have a lot of disagreements here.
The Washington Post today gave you a whole lot of Pinocchios because they say you constantly misstate how much the wall is built, how much of the wall is built, and how much is there. But that's not the point here. We have a disagreement about the wall, whether it's effective or whatever. Not on border security, but on the wall. We do not want to shut down the government. You have called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government. We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now. Let's debate in private, okay? Yeah, let's debate in private.
That is devoid, frankly, of fact, and we can.
We need
dispel
border
that.
security. I think we all agree that we need border security.
Yes,
Is that
we
right?
do.
Good.
We do.
See, we get along. Excuse me, did we win the Senate? We won the Senate.
When the president brags that he won North Dakota and Indiana, he's in real trouble.
When I
did.
Let me say this.
We did win
Let me say this.
North Dakota
This
and
is the
Indiana.
most unfortunate thing. We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
It's called transparency.
I know, it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we want to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without.
You know
saying
what?
to the
We need
public,
border security.
this
That's
isn't
what we're going to be
true.
talking about, border security. People with tremendous medical difficulty and medical problems are pouring in, and in many cases, it's contagious. They're pouring into our country. We have to have border security. We have to have a wall as part of border security. And I don't think we really disagree so much. I also know that, Nancy's in a situation where it's not easy for her to talk right now, and I understand that, and I fully understand that. We're going to have a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. But we have to have border security.
Mr. President, please don't characterize the strength that I bring to this meeting as the leader of the House Democrats who just won a big victory.
Elections
But
have consequences,
let me
Mr. President.
Let me just say.
That's right.
let
And
me
that's why the
just say
country is
this.
doing so well.
What the President is representing in terms of his cards over there are not factual. We have to have an evidence-based conversation about what does work, what money has been spent, and how effective it is. This isn't about, this is about the security of our country, to take an oath to protect and defend. And we don't want to have that mischaracterized by anyone. And
I agree with that.
and we are
No, I
coming-
agree with that.
we are coming- So let us have a conversation where we don't have to contradict in public the statistics that you put forth, but instead can have a conversation about what will really work and what the American people deserve from us at this uncertain time in their lives. where they
One
have
thing I think we
apprehension.
can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about
The
it.
last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened
20
it up very
times.
quickly. And
20
I don't
times.
want to do what you did.
20
But,
times you
Chuck,
have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wall. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said
Okay,
it.
you want to put that on
You've
my...
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay, fair
Absolutely.
enough.
And
We
I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you
disagree.
what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down.
That is
And I'm going to
luxury.
shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you shouldn't shut
Okay.
it down.
But you-
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I'm not sorry for any of my intentions. I'm not sorry for anything that I have ever done.
President Trump has been mocking Biden's troubles on Twitter, even posting a doctored video, despite more serious accusations of sexual misconduct against him, which he's denied.
Are you the right messenger for that?
Yeah, I think I'm a very good messenger, and people got a kick out of it.